The moon over the Congaree River was a yellow bone, gnawed thin by the Georgia heat. On the Whitlow plantation, the cotton stalks stood like rows of accusing fingers in the fading light, but no fingers picked them. No mules brayed from the lot. No sound drifted from the quarters. For the first time in 50 years, the great house at Hickory Hill sat in a silence so complete it seemed the land itself had stopped breathing. Inside, Elias Whitlow sat at his mahogany table, a half-empty decanter of Madeira before him. He did not pour. He listened. The absence of sound was a physical weight, pressing against the shuttered windows. His wife, Mary, had taken to her bed with a sick headache.
What's down there?
The house
I don't know, it
servants,
looks like someone's
Lisa,
there.
old Saul,
It's
the girl
moving!
Prudence,
I'm getting the
had
key.
vanished as surely as the field hands. Cook had left a pot of grits to scorch on the hearth. The scent of burned grain mingled with the sweet, cloying smell of night jasmine, combination that turned the stomach. Whitlow
Fine
touched
day
the
for
small,
it.
iron
Indeed.
key in his
This
waistcoat
is
pocket.
captivating. Mind if I join?
It unlocked the
Not at
door to
all.
the old smokehouse,
This road needs picking
place not
clean.
used
No
for
bowls left
smoking meat
behind.
in a decade.
Yes, sir. We'll get it done.
He
Good.
did not go
Work
there.
hard and there'll be no trouble.
He hadn't gone there since the
Shh, my
night,
little one,
3
rest
years
now.
past, when he'd last
I
seen
am
the
here.
boy. His name was Mion. He had been born in the whisper season, the brief slack time between the last of the cotton picking and the first hard frost, in the year 1828. His mother, a woman named Philomena, called him Mion because it was the sound she made when she held him, a soft, humming word from a language her own mother had carried across the ocean, a language now reduced to echoes and fragments. The white folk called him Philomena's boy until he was big enough to carry water, at which point he became simply Mion. On the ledgers, another unit of labor with a birth date entered in a shaky hand beside the word Negro. His first memory was not of his mother's face, but of her hands. They were never still. When she nursed him in the quarters cabin, her fingers would trace patterns on his back, circles, lines, a shape like a bird in flight. They were the last traces of her freedom, drawn onto his skin. His father was a man named Joshua from the next
What's down
plantation
there?
over, a
I don't
tall,
know, it looks
silent
like
man who
someone's
could
there.
shoe a mule so
It's
the shoe
moving!
never wore thin.
I'm getting the key.
Joshua belonged to the McGrath place, and their visits were a privilege granted by a slip of paper from Master Whitlow and Master McGrath, revocable at any moment, for any reason. They were revoked when Mion was 5.
Fine day for
McGrath
it.
sold Joshua
Indeed.
south.
This is captivating.
Mion's
Mind if
mother
I
did
join?
not cry.
Not at all.
This
She
road
stood
needs
in the
picking
doorway of
clean.
their
No
cabin,
bowls left
her
behind.
hands clenched
Yes, sir.
at her
We'll get it done.
sides,
Good.
and she stared
Work
at the
hard
road
and there'll be
long
no
after
trouble.
the dust had settled.
Shh, my little one,
That
rest
night,
now.
her fingers traced the
I'm
patterns
here.
on Mion's back for an hour, harder, as if trying to press the memory of his father deep into his bones. The Whitlow place was a world of work. As soon as a child could walk, they were in the trash gang, picking rocks from the fields, carrying water to the hands, chasing chickens from the master's garden. Mion was small for his age, but he was quick. He learned to read the sky, to know when the overseer, a man named Briggs, was in a mood for the strap by the set of his shoulders. Briggs was not a man who enjoyed cruelty, which made him more dangerous than a man who did. He administered punishment the way he administered worming medicine to the hogs, a necessary, unpleasant task to ensure the smooth operation of the property. He never yelled. He would simply beckon a person with a curl of his finger, and state the infraction in a low, calm voice before delivering the lashes. The quiet was the worst part. It allowed a person to hear the sound of the leather, and the shameful, choked-back cries of the one being whipped. Mion learned to be silent. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of a hunter. He watched. He saw how the master's son, a pallid boy named Theodore, was taught his letters by a tutor who came from Charleston. He saw the books, the hornbook with its sheet of printed text, the quills, and the ink. He could not read the words, but he understood what they represented, a world of power that lived entirely in the mind, a world that had nothing to do with the strength of your back. He coveted it. His chance came in the form of a discarded newspaper. It was last week's Columbia Observer, used to wrap a parcel of salt fish for the quarters. Lisa, the cook's helper, threw the paper on the firewood pile. Mion snatched it, hiding it in the straw of his sleeping pallet. For months, he studied it in the dark, by the faint light of the cabin's embers. The letters were just shapes, but he began to see patterns. A tall, straight line with a circle on top was always there, in every group of shapes. He saw it in the name of the paper. He saw it again in the advertisements for likely Negroes and fugitive runaways. He learned the word a. He learned the word the. It was a secret language, a key he was forging for himself, one letter at a time.
What's down there?
He was 10 when
I don't
old
know, it
Isaac,
looks like
the
someone's
driver,
there.
caught him.
It's moving!
I'm getting
Isaac
the
had a
key.
face like cracked leather and one eye that was milky with cataracts. He saw Meon tracing a letter in the dirt with a stick. Boy, Isaac's voice was a low rumble. What you doing? Meon's hand froze.
Fine day for it.
He looked
Indeed.
up, his
This
heart
is
a trap
captivating.
bird in
Mind
his
if I
chest.
join? Not at all.
Isaac could
This
take
road
him to
needs picking
Briggs.
clean. No bowls left
A
behind.
reading Negro
Yes, sir,
was a
we'll get it done.
dangerous
Good.
Negro.
Work hard and there'll
The
be no
punishment
trouble.
was 50 lashes,
Shh,
or a
my little one,
hamstring,
rest
or
now.
a sail.
I am here.
Nothing, Uncle Isaac, Meon whispered. Just drawing. Isaac stared at him with his good eye for a long time. He looked at the crude letter in the dust. He looked at the boy. He grunted. Drawing, he repeated. He turned and walked away. He never said a word. But the next day, a scrap of leather, about the size of a hand, was tucked into the fork of a tree near the creek where Meon often went to be alone. On it, scratched deep into the hide with a nail, was a perfect letter A. Meon kept that scrap of leather for years, hidden in a hole beneath the cabin's hearthstone. It was his talisman. Old Isaac, he learned, had not always been a driver. He had once been a boy in a different place, a place where he had learned things, before he was broken to the plow. His silence was not a betrayal, but a protection. Meon's secret knowledge grew.
What's down there?
He
I don't
learned
know,
to
it looks
form
like
words,
someone's there.
to sound them out.
It's moving!
I'm
The
getting the key.
newspaper became a school book. He learned of places called Washington and Boston, of debates in far-off halls about tariffs and states' rights. And he learned of the word that haunted the margins of every other story, abolition.
Fine day
He didn't
for it.
fully understand
Indeed.
it, but he
This
knew
is
it was a
captivating.
flame.
Mind
and
if I
his
join?
masters were
Not at
terrified
all.
of being burned.
This road needs picking clean.
When
No
Meon
bowls
was
left
13,
behind. Yes,
he
sir.
was
we'll get
taken
it done.
from the field
Good.
and brought to
Work
the big
hard
house.
and there'll be no trouble.
Philomena
Shh,
had been
my
sold
little
2
one,
years
rest now.
prior for insolence.
I am here.
She had talked back to the new mistress, a Yankee woman Master Whitlow had married who found the ways of the plantation uncivilized and took her frustrations out on the house servants. Meon had watched his mother walk down the same road his father had taken, her hands no longer tracing patterns on his back, but bound in front of her with a hemp rope. He did not cry then, either. He had learned to keep his water for the fields. At the big house, his job was to tend the fires, polish the silver, and wait at table. It was there he learned the second great lesson of his life, that white people, in their own houses, were not the stern, all-powerful figures they seemed in the fields. They were petty, frightened, and often foolish. Master Whitlow, a man who could order a whipping with a glance, could be reduced to a stammering wreck by his wife's displeasure over a poorly roasted chicken. The new mistress, a woman named Caroline, spoke endlessly of the latest fashions and the sins of the northern factory owners, all while Lisa, the cook, stood over a hot stove for 16 hours a day. Theodore, the son, now a young man home from a school in Virginia, talked of honor and gentlemanly conduct, then thought nothing of putting his muddy boot on a footstool Meon had just spent an hour polishing. Meon served them. He filled their glasses. He cleared their plates. And he listened. He pieced together fragments of conversation about debts and cotton prices, about a man named Nat Turner who had terrified Virginia a few years before, about the peculiar institution that was the bedrock of their world. He heard Caroline complain that the new kitchen girl, terrified 12-year-old named Sue, was simple and couldn't learn a thing. Meon knew Sue wasn't simple. She was just so broken by fear that her mind had retreated to a place they couldn't touch. The turning point came in the summer of 1846. Meon was 18. A man from the north, a cousin of Caroline's named Mr. Alastair Finch, came to stay. He was a pale, serious man with a notebook he was always scribbling in. He claimed to be writing a book about the agricultural practices of the South. He asked endless questions of Master Whitlow about crop rotation and yields. But Meon noticed that Mr. Finch's eyes were not on the cotton, they were on the people. One
What's down
afternoon,
there?
as Meon was
I don't know,
carrying
it
a
looks
pitcher
like
of
someone's
mint julep
there.
to the porch,
It's
he
moving!
overheard them.
I'm getting the key.
The men were smoking cigars, the smoke curling lazily in the heavy air. The productivity is remarkable, Elias, Mr. Finch was saying. A truly efficient system. It's the only system, Whitlow
Fine day
replied,
for it.
puffing on his
Indeed.
cigar.
This is
The
captivating.
Negro
Mind
is
if I
suited
join?
to the climate,
Not at all.
to the labor.
This road needs picking
in
clean.
their
No bowls
nature.
left behind. Yes, sir.
Of
We'll
course,
get it done.
Finch
Good.
said smoothly.
Work hard and there'll be no trouble.
Nature.
Shh,
I
my
was
little
speaking
one,
with your
rest now.
driver, Isaac,
I am here.
a very intelligent man for his station. He has a remarkable understanding of the mules. Whitlow chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. Isaac's a good boy. Knows his place. Meon stood frozen on the other side of the screen door. He saw the glint in Mr. Finch's eye. It was the same glint he saw in his own when he was learning a new word from the newspaper. It was the glint of a hunter, a collector of information. That night, Mr. Finch dismissed himself early, claiming a headache. But Meon, lying on his pallet in the narrow room off the kitchen, heard a soft sound. He crept to the window. He saw a figure moving towards the quarters, a pale hand holding a lantern low to the ground. It was Mr. Finch. The next day, Meon found old Isaac behind the smokehouse. The old man's hands were shaking as he tried to light his pipe. His one
What's
good eye
down
was
there?
wide with a fear
I don't know,
Meon
it
had
looks
never
like
seen
someone's
there
there.
before.
It's moving!
He asked
I'm
me
getting a
things,
key.
boy, Isaac whispered, his voice ragged. Asked me if I could read. Asked me if I knew my letters. I told him no. I told him I was just a field hand. But he
Fine
looked at
day
me,
for it.
he looked at me
Indeed.
like he knew.
This is captivating.
A cold
Mind if I
dread
join?
settled in
Not at
Meon's
all.
stomach.
This road needs picking
Mr.
clean.
Finch
No
was not
bowls left
writing a
behind.
book on
Yes, sir.
agriculture.
We'll get it done. Good.
He was
Work
gathering
hard and there'll be no
evidence.
trouble.
He was an
Shh, my little
abolitionist,
one,
a
rest
spy.
I am
And if he
here.
was caught, he would be run off, or worse. But the people he had spoken to, the people he had asked questions of, they would pay. The masters would see it as proof of a conspiracy. The punishment would be swift and terrible. Meon had to make a choice. He could do nothing, and wait for the storm. Or he could act. He thought of his father, sold south. He thought of his mother, her hands bound. He thought of little Sue, who had stopped speaking entirely. And he thought of the scrap of leather with the letter A hidden beneath the hearthstone. That evening, as he cleared the dishes from supper, he saw Mr. Finch's notebook lying on the sideboard in the hall. It was a foolish, dangerous mistake. Meon's heart hammered. The house was quiet, the family was in the parlor. He had seconds, maybe a minute. He opened the notebook. The pages were filled with a tight, precise script. He couldn't read all of it, but he saw names. Names of slaves from plantations for miles around. Beside some, there were marks: Isaac, driver, Whitlow place. Intelligent. Possible leader. Suki, McGraw place. Knows the swamp. And then he saw a passage he could understand: the key is the river. A small boat, under cover of dark, could reach the coast in 3 nights, if the patrols are avoided. The information gathered here will be invaluable to the cause. The cause? The river. A boat. Meon's mind raced. He wasn't just a witness anymore. He was holding a map to a possibility he had never dared to dream of. Freedom. The sound of a chair scraping in the parlor sent a jolt through him. He closed the notebook and put it back, his hands slick with sweat. He slipped back into the dining room just as Master Whitlow walked in. That night, Meon did not sleep. He lay in the dark, the plan forming in his mind, piece by piece. Mr. Finch was a danger, but he was also a tool. He had a boat. He had knowledge of the river. Meon had to get to him. He had to speak to him without being seen. The
What's
next
down there?
afternoon, he
I
got
don't
his
know.
chance.
It looks like someone's there.
Mr.
It's
Finch was
moving!
walking alone
I'm
by
getting
the
the
creek,
key.
the same creek where old Isaac had left the leather scrap years ago. Meon slipped through the undergrowth, his bare feet making no sound on the soft earth. Mr. Finch, he said, his voice low. The
Fine
man
day
spun
for it.
around, his
Indeed.
face pale with
This
shock.
is captivating. Mind if I
He saw
join?
Meon
Not
and
at
his
all.
hand went to his
This
pocket,
road needs
as
picking
if for a
clean. No
weapon.
bowls left behind.
I mean,
yes,
you
sir.
know
We'll get
harm,
it done.
sir.
Good.
Meon
Work
said
hard and there'll
quickly.
be no trouble.
He had never
Shh,
spoken
my
to a
little one,
white
rest
man this
now.
way, as an equal.
I am here.
The words felt strange and heavy in his mouth. I saw your book. Finch's eyes narrowed. You can read. Meon nodded. A flicker of surprise, then something else, respect, crossed Finch's face. Then you know what I am, Finch said quietly. I know what you are, Meon replied. And I know what you have planned. The river. A boat. Finch stared at him. And what will you do with this knowledge, boy? Will you run to your master? Meon thought of the 50 lashes, of the hamstring, of being sold away from the only home he'd ever known, a home built on blood and sweat. He thought of the patterns his mother drew on his back. He thought of old Isaac's shaking hands. No, sir, Meon said, his voice steady. I want to go with you. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the chirrup of crickets and the
down there?
distant,
I
mournful
don't know.
call
It
of a
looks like
morning
someone's
dove.
there.
It's
Finch
moving!
looked at him,
I'm getting the
truly
key.
looked at him, as if seeing a person for the first time. It will be dangerous, Finch said. If we are caught, they will hang me. They will torture you, then hang you. I know, sir.
Fine day for it.
Can you be ready
Indeed.
tonight?
This is captivating.
Meon's
Mind if
breath
I join?
caught.
Not at all.
Tonight.
This road needs picking clean.
was so
No
soon.
bowls left behind.
Yes,
So
sir. We'll get it
fast.
done.
Good.
Yes,
Work hard and
sir.
there'll be no trouble.
The smokehouse,
Shh, my
Finch
little one,
whispered.
rest now.
Behind the
I am
big
here.
house. It's abandoned. Be there an hour after the house goes dark. Tell no one. He turned and walked away, leaving Meon standing by the creek, the weight of his entire life pressing down on his shoulders. He went back to the quarters. He looked at old Isaac, who was whittling a piece of wood by the fire. He looked at Sue, who sat staring at the flames, her eyes empty. He wanted to tell them. He wanted to take them all. But he knew he couldn't. One person might slip away in the night. A group would be caught before they reached the river. This was a chance for one. For him. He went to the cabin he shared with 4 other men. He took nothing. He couldn't. He simply reached under the hearthstone and pulled out the scrap of leather with the letter A. He slipped it into the waistband of his rough trousers. It was all he had of his mother, of Isaac, of the secret life he had built in the shadows. An hour after the house went dark, Meon slipped out of the quarters. The night was moonless, thick with humidity. He moved like a ghost, keeping to the shadows, avoiding the path. He reached the smokehouse. It was a small, windowless building of weathered planks. The door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open. The smell hit him first. Not the smell of smoked meat, but of damp earth and decay. It was pitch black inside. He heard a soft rustle. Mr. Finch, he whispered. There was no answer. Only the rustle, closer now. His eyes adjusted to the dark. He could make out a shape, but it wasn't the shape of a man. It was a bundle on the floor. And then, from behind him, a voice. Evening, Meon. It was Briggs. The overseer stood in the doorway, a lantern in his hand. He didn't light it. He just stood there, a darker shape against the darkness. Mr. Finch is on his way to the Columbia jail, Briggs said, his voice calm and tired. He won't be taking any boat rides. Meon's legs went weak.
What's down there?
He
I
had
don't know.
walked
It looks
into
like
a trap.
someone's there.
It's
Finch had been
moving!
caught,
I'm getting-
or he had betrayed them all. It didn't matter. The result was the same. Master Whitlow wants to see you, Briggs said. In the smokehouse.
Fine
Meon
day
stood
for
frozen,
it.
his
Indeed.
mind racing.
This is captivating.
The
Mind if I
bundle on
join?
the floor.
Not at
This
could
road
see
needs
it
picking
now.
clean. No bowls left
It
behind.
was a shovel
Yes, sir.
and a
We'll get
length
it
of
done.
chain.
Good. Work hard.
He's
and there'll be-
coming himself, Briggs
Shh, my
added,
little one,
and
rest
there was
now.
something in his voice,
I am
a faint
here.
tremor, that Meon had never heard before. Was it fear? Pity? Said he wanted to do this one personal. They waited in the suffocating dark. Meon's whole life, every moment of work, every stolen letter, every memory of his mother's hands, flashed through his mind in a single, searing instant. He thought of the letter pressed against his skin. It stood for so many things. Africa. America. Alone. Alive. The door creaked open. Master Whitlow stood there, holding a lantern. He was not in his usual planter's attire, but in his shirt sleeves, his face pale and set. He looked old. He looked tired. He looked at Meon, and for a moment, his eyes held something that might
What's
have been
down there?
regret,
I don't know. It looks
Then
like
it was
someone's
gone,
there.
replaced by the
It's
cold,
moving!
hard
getting-
certainty of a man protecting his property. You know what you did, boy, Whitlow said. It wasn't a question. Meon said nothing. He had learned the power of silence
Fine
long
day
ago.
for it. Indeed.
Whitlow stepped
This is
inside,
captivating.
and
Mind
Briggs
if I
closed
join?
the door,
Not a-
This
leaving
road
them
needs
in the
picking
lantern
clean.
light.
No bowls left behind.
Whitlow
Yes,
set
sir,
the
we'll get it
lantern
done.
on a
Good.
rickety shelf.
Work hard and they'll be.
He reached into
Shh,
his
my little
pocket
one,
and pulled
rest
out
now.
the small, iron
I'm
key.
here.
I should sell you, he said, his voice barely a whisper. I should send you so far south you'll forget your own name. But I can't. You're worth too much. And you've given me no cause but this one, foolish thing. He looked around the empty smokehouse. This place has held many things over the years. Meat. Tools. And once, a man. A man who forgot his place, just like you. He walked to the far wall and knelt down. With the key, he unlocked a hasp on a low, heavy door in the floor, a root cellar, Meon realized. A pit. Whitlow pulled the door open. A waft of cold, dank air rose from the black hole. You'll stay here until I decide what to do with you, Whitlow said, not looking at him. A week. A month. Until you remember what you are. He gestured to the hole. Meon looked into it. It was absolute nothingness. A darkness so complete it felt like a physical thing, reaching up to pull him in. This was not a whipping. This was not a sail. This was an erasure. To be put in a hole and forgotten. He looked at Whitlow. The master's face was a mask, but his hand, the hand holding the key, was trembling slightly. He was not a monster, Meon realized. He was a man so trapped by his own world, by his own need to own and control, that this pit, was the only answer he had. The quiet cruelty of it was more devastating than any whip. Meon had a choice. He could fight. He could run. He would be caught, and the punishment would be worse. Or he could step into the hole, and let the darkness swallow him. He thought of his mother's hands, tracing patterns. He thought of the letter. He thought of the newspaper, and the word abolition.
What's down there?
He had
I don't
touched
know,
a
it looks
world
like
beyond
someone's
this
there.
plantation,
It's
beyond
moving!
this pit.
I'm getting...
They could put his body in a hole, but they could not take that. He took a step towards the hole. Then another. He did not look at Whitlow. He looked only
Fine
at the
day
darkness,
for it.
and he stepped
Indeed.
down.
This is
The
captivating.
last
Mind
thing
if I
he
join?
heard was the thud
Not
of
a-
the
This
door
road needs
closing,
picking
and the
clean.
scrape
No
of the
bowls
lock.
left behind. Yes, sir.
Then
we'll
there
get it
was
done.
nothing.
Good. Work hard.
What
and they'll be.
happened next? No
Shh, my
one
little
can say
one,
for
rest
certain.
now.
The
I'm
story
here.
passed down, not in ledgers or newspapers, but in the whispered memories of the quarters, stories so strange and sad that people only told it in whispers. They say that for 3 days, Briggs brought food and water to the smokehouse. He would open the hasp, lower a bucket on a rope, and pull it up again. Meon never spoke. He never called out. He just took the bucket. On the third night, a storm came. Not a gentle rain, but a brute of a storm, a Carolina sky-rending tempest that snapped trees like twigs and turned the roads to rivers of mud. Lightning struck the big house, setting the kitchen ablaze. In the chaos, with everyone fighting the fire and the rain, no one thought of the smokehouse. When the storm passed and the sun rose on a world washed clean, Whitlow went to the smokehouse.
What's down there?
The door
I
was
don't
still
know. It
locked.
looks like someone's there.
The hasp
It's
was still in
moving!
place.
I'm getting...
He opened the root cellar door and lowered the lantern. The bucket was there. The walls were damp. But the hole was empty. Meon was gone.
Fine day
They
for
searched
it.
for days.
Indeed. This is
They tracked
captivating.
the river
Mind if I
banks.
join? Not a...
This
They
road needs
questioned every
picking
slave
clean.
for
No
miles.
bowls left behind. Yes, sir.
No
we'll
one
get it
had
done.
seen
Good. Work hard. and
No
they'll be.
one knew anything.
Shh, my little one, rest
The
now.
only thing out of place was a
I'm
small,
here.
damp scrap of leather they found near the creek, with a single letter scratched into it. Whitlow held it in his hand, turned it over, and let it drop to the ground. Some said the storm had opened a passage, a crack in the earth that led to freedom. Some said the spirits of the ancestors had reached up and pulled him through, carrying him home. Some said he had simply willed himself out of existence, choosing the mystery of the unknown over the certainty of the pit. The mystery never left Hickory Hill. It sat in the air like a ghost. The silence that fell that night became a permanent feature of the place. The slaves moved quieter, spoke lower. The master grew old and haunted, often seen staring at the smokehouse door. The mistress took to her bed permanently and died within the year. Theodore, the son, tried to run the place, but the land seemed to turn against him. Crops failed. Accounts faltered. The great house fell into disrepair. The war came and went. Freedom came. But for the people who had been at Hickory Hill, freedom always tasted faintly of that night, of the boy who vanished into the earth and never came back. Years later, a very old woman named Lisa, living in a shack on the outskirts of Columbia, told the story to her great-grandchildren. She told them about Meon, the quiet boy who could read the sky and the newspaper. She told them about the storm, and the empty hole. And she told them about a letter she had once seen, many years after the war, in a newspaper printed up north. It was a letter to the editor, written by a man named Whitlow, who spoke passionately about the need for schools for the freedmen, and the importance of literacy. The return address was a town in Massachusetts. She couldn't be sure, of course. The name could have been a coincidence. But the letter spoke of a debt owed to a teacher from long ago, a teacher who had shown him the power of a single letter. And it was signed with a flourish that, if you looked closely, began with a shape like a bird in flight. The smokehouse at Hickory Hill is gone
What's
now,
down there?
crumbled to dust.
I don't know. It looks like
The
someone's
land
there.
has been planted
It's
over many
moving.
times.
I'm getting the key.
The story of Meon is not in any history book. It lives only in the spaces between memory and forgetting, a whisper on the wind, a testament to the millions who endured, who resisted, and who, in 1,000 small and mysterious
Fine day
ways,
for it.
refused to
Indeed.
be erased.
This is captivating.
They
Mind
fell
if I
silent,
join?
and the
Not at
world
all.
never explained
This road
why.
needs picking clean. No bowls
the
left
silence
behind.
itself
yes,
is
sir.
the
We'll get
story.
it done. Good.